Yes, people, this is your girl Aleisha Lee and welcome back to another episode of Aleisha Lee Reviews. In this episode, we will be reviewing The Boys, episode 6, Dirty Business. Let's get into this.
Hit that subscribe button.
We kick this episode right where we left off with Butcher and Samir. Now, Samir, he is clearly devastated and he really does not believe how Butcher can expect him to do this for him after he's just cut off his leg. Samir insists that he's not able to do it. He needs to think about Victoria and Zoe. He knows that both of them are supes as well, and this is where Butcher lets him know he has got a week. Samir lets Butcher know that that is impossible. He's going to need months to do this, but Butcher lets him know that he has got a week, and that is it. Now we are with Hughie, his mum and the squad, and they are paying their respects to Hughie's dad. They are on a tour because Hughie's dad really enjoyed the film Made in Manhattan and he actually wanted his ashes to be spread outside of the hotel. A weird request, but Hughie and his mum make sure they honour it. Hughie's mum is asking if Kamiko's okay because she really is not doing well. Hughie explains that Frenchie handed himself in after everything that he has done. Hughie's mum is in shock and is like, who are your friends? We see that Kamiko is at the jail waiting to speak to Frenchie. Unfortunately, Frenchie, he is not in the mood for visitors and he has denied visitation. We are now with Firecracker. We see that she has taken over for Cameron while he is on a sabbatical, but we know he won't be coming back. Turns off the TV because he ain't trying to hear Firecracker, and that's when he gets a phone call from a frantic A-Train. A-Train lets him know that they have killed Cameron Coleman because they thought he was the leak. Is really trying to calm his nerves because just before this phone call, he was doing a meditation. We saw from the last episode, the man has hives because of the stress he is going through at the moment. But this is where he says to A-Train, let's calm down, let's talk it through and let's see how we can work this out together. He then goes on to explain the madness to Hughie and Annie. Lets them know that Homelander, he is trying to assemble this soup army, and Sage, she was having conversations with Tech Knight. Tech Knight is having an event at his estate, and this is where Starlight says that they could use Butcher's help. They realize that Butcher has been MIA. We know where Butcher has been. He's been chopping up people's legs and kidnapping them. And he says to Hughie that maybe he should sit this one out, especially after everything that he's just gone through with his dad, but he says no, he needs to focus on work. This is where Hughie asks how are they going to get into this party, and this is where brings up Webweaver. pays Webweaver a visit, and Webweaver, he is an absolute mess. Brings Webweaver his fix. This is where Webweaver just goes past the line, but I guess he is willing to do anything for the boys right about now because Webweaver asks to do the honors. It is absolutely ridiculous, with Webweaver's web hole even giving a little pop to Ugh, yuck. Hughie comes just in time to provide with some hand sanitizer. Lets Hughie know that Webweaver will be out of it for at least 48 hours. Now we are at Tech Knight's estate and we can see that Homelander, Ryan and some of the 7 are in attendance. We see Homelander put Tech Knight in his place, letting him know that him and Sage only need him for the moment, but he is clearly beneath them. We then see Ashley has arrived, and this is where Sage tells her, didn't she get the message? She is not invited to the big people's table. But Ashley lets her know, I thought you were the smartest person, but no, clearly you're not, because Tech Knight invited her and they go way back. Tech Knight is speaking to Firecracker and A-Train, and this is where Firecracker is trying to find out more about his wealth. He lets her know that this is not from entertainment, this is old money, and that is where he's looking at A-Train because he says that this is old money from when they used to own slaves. Listen, Tech Knight. He goes on to say that they also own prisons, so that is where the money is coming from. I know A-Train wants to give this man a punch, but he just carries on eating his snack. Now we can see the boys are getting ready to enter the building. This is where poor Hughie has been tasked to pretend to be web weaver. That suit must stink. He even says to the guys, please do not laugh at him, but they cannot help themselves. How can he ask them not to laugh? I mean, look at him. Hughie is definitely taking one for the team. Thinks it's better this way so that Tech Knight is not suspicious. This man, he has super senses when it comes to smell, touch, taste, and he isn't feeling this at all and fears that Tech Knight might suspect Hughie. As well as pretending to be web weaver, Hughie also has to plant bugs around the estate so that they can hear what is going on. Hughie is in, and straight away he spots the 7 are in the building, but he tries to reassure Hughie just to continue on with the mission. This is where Hughie bumps into Victoria Newman. He nearly baits himself up because remember, he needs to stay in Web Weaver's voice, and this is where Victoria Newman, she cannot deny that smelly Web Weaver smell. This is where we see Tech Knight approach, and Hughie is doing his best to try and be Web Weaver. Tech Knight, he's speaking some code about, you know, if all goes well tonight, the gig is yours. Obviously, Hughie doesn't know what he is talking about, neither do we, but I'm sure we will find out. Now we see Sage, Homelander and Victoria. Victoria, she is clearly shaken from losing Samir, and this is where Sage can notice this. They go on to discuss the plans. Victoria, she does not want to be there, but Sage lets her know what is going down. Homelander also lets Victoria know that Stan Edgar is out, but obviously we know that she knows. She says to him that Stan, he's not a threat, but Homelander, he's just letting Victoria know that he knows. We see that Hughie is getting the full Tech Knight tour. Tech Knight is showing him all around while Hughie is making sure he is signaling to the boys what he can see. This is where we see that Tech Knight invites him to the tech cave. Obviously Hughie, he's undercover, he is going to accept, but we know this ain't a good idea. Hughie's communication is disconnected as he goes down in the elevator to Tech Knight's cave. We meet Elijah. Tech Knight says he has been a father to him since his parents passed, and we also see one of Tech Knight's prisoners in this red spandex. Listen, yeah, I don't know what is going on in this cave, but we need to hurry up and get out of there. Tech Knight, he can sense that Web Weaver, Hughie, his heart is beating and he can sense that he is nervous, but Hughie, trying to remain in character, lets him know that he is good. We are with the Deep and Black Noir at the Vault Tower, and we can see Black Noir. This is our first time seeing the new Black Noir. The Deep even tells him to put his mask back on, but he reminds the Deep that there is no one there because they are not the important ones. The important ones, they're out at the estate while they are left behind. Noir, he is sick of it, and he is even going to go and join a circus where he is able to fully use his powers. Noir can fly. Back with the boys, Marvin is trying to meditate while Annie is losing it. She says that they should not have sent Hughie in there, especially after everything that he has been going through. Annie cannot bear it any longer and she decides that they are going in. Back with Butcher, we can see that he is in a bad way. He is throwing up this black substance and it is not looking good for him. He's collapsing on the floor. This is where we see Becca. She is trying to reason with Butcher's conscience. She lets him know that he's not doing okay because he's cutting off innocent people's legs. Becca pleads with Butcher because she says that he's going to end up swapping one Homelander out for another, i.e. Brian. Back at the estate, we can see that the guys are in. Instructs them to split up, and this is where we see Victoria. She is having a word with one of the Senate guys and her head explodes. She is so bored, but no, it is just her imagination, but probably that's what she really wanted to do. Victoria speaks to Sage. She is having a hard time having to cozy up to these people, and this is where Sage tells her a story about her grandmother. Sage, she managed to find a cure for her grandmother's cancer, and when she presented it to these people, they did not care. They laughed at her and her grandma passed. Sage, she has these motivations because she knows what it is like to be ignored. She gives Victoria some advice, and this is where the two seem to be on common ground. Firecracker tries to get in on the conversation with Homelander, Victoria and Sage, but Sage lets her know that this is not a conversation for her. They are questioning where their host Tech Knight is as we see Elijah take a cake, and that is when we see the cake is in the tech cave. It is going to be used in this whatever they're about to do. Webweaver Hughie, he is in shock. He doesn't know what is going on right about now, but Tech Knight lets him know that this cake was his request. Elijah begins to strap Tech Knight up and things are just getting crazy. This is where we see Ashley pop in. Yeah, Ashley is here to join the party too. Back with Butcher, we see that he is not in a good way. Joe Kesler comes in to try and speak some words of encouragement to him and tries to find out what Butcher is really on. Kesler wants to know who the real Butcher is. Back at the tech cave, we can see things are steaming up. Ashley is putting in that work on poor Hughie. Now we are with Firecracker. She is having a moment. I think she feels a bit out of her depth at the mansion, but this is where we see once she has her moment, she exits to see Starlight. This is when the two get into it. Starlight tries to apologize to her, but she isn't having it. That's when we see Starlight. She sedates Firecracker. Yep, Firecracker is out of there, sleeping, thanks to that injection Annie gave her. Back at the tech cave, things are not looking good for Hughie. Ashley has finished her business, yuck, and this is where we see that Tech Knight is starting to question Hughie/Webweaver, asking him what the safe word is, and obviously Hughie doesn't know. Webweaver, his senses are tingling, he knows that there is something up, and that is where we see he takes off Hughie's mask. Before he gets big points with Homelander, he is going to have some fun with Hughie by saying he's going to create his own holes, yuck! Hughie pleads with Tech Knight, even telling him that he was his favorite soup when he was younger, but Tech Knight, he don't care about all of that. All he cares about is creating new holes in Hughie. Now we're with MM and Kimiko. They have linked up in the mansion, and this is where they are on the hunt for Hughie. They notice the orchids that Hughie mentioned as he was going up to Tech Knight's cave, and this is where they enter the room and they see Sage. Sage, she gets up instantly, trying to speak to Marvin, trying to persuade him to forget about this. All she needs to do is just scream, but MM, he is applying that pressure. She is trying to apply pressure as well, even mentioning MM's daughter Janine. Sage is really trying to push his buttons. This is where she runs to try and hit the alarm, but MM shoots her. At the same time, Kimiko manages to find the book that opens the secret door. Just then, we see that Marvin, he is starting to have issues, and all of a sudden he collapses. I think everything that has been going on plus Sage just put the cherry on top for him. He collapses. Kimiko can feel that there is a pulse, but she has to leave MM so that she can rescue Hughie. A-Train notices something funny in his drink, and that is where he sees that it is Kimiko. She shows A-Train everything that's going on with MM and asks him to take him to the hospital. That is when we see Annie comes in just as A-Train and MM leave. Kimiko and Annie make it just in time before Tech Knight is about to cut up Hughie. Poor Hughie is there, he is afraid, but I know he is happy that they are both there. We then see A-Train drop MM off to the hospital, and we see a young boy who notices. The boy smiles at A-Train and A-Train smiles right back. You know that A-Train is feeling real good. This is the first time he has had a real save. Back at the mansion, Homelander is getting ready to speak to their guests, and this is where he notices something is wrong with Sage. He asks Sage what is wrong, and she tells him brain damage. He can see the hole in her head. Sage is clearly not with it, and she is not going to be able to address anyone in this state. The guests begin to ask Homelander questions that you know he does not have the answers for, and this is where Victoria Newman has to step in. Homelander, you can tell that he is livid. He didn't expect for Victoria to come out with this speech, but she has saved them in this moment. Back at the Tech Cave, we can see that Tech Knight, he is now tied up, and this is where Annie and Kimiko start the interrogation. Tech Knight, he is enjoying the interrogation techniques that Kimiko is giving him. We know that that is his type of fun, so it isn't working. That isn't until his hostage in the red spandex, he manages to break free and he goes straight to Tech Knight's computer. He shows the squad that this has all of his banking information and all they need is an eye scan from Tech Knight. You can see on Tech Knight's face, he is not feeling this. You know he loves his money. This is where Hughie holds up the laptop to his face and they are in. The squad begin transferring that cash because Tech Knight, he is not trying to tell them the truth. Tech Knight, he is feeling it, but this is where they start transferring those funds. But it is all too much for Tech Knight. He starts delivering the information. Tech Knight starts telling them what they need to know. Sage and Homelander have given him a deal. He goes on to say that Sage and Homelander, they want to use his prisons. Their plan is to start prison camps. The squad are in shock, but that is when they get another shock because they see that Elijah, he is strangling Tech Knight. He tells them to take a step back and he tells him to stop, but no, he explains that he raised Tech Knight from when he was a child and he's basically sick of him. He's sick of hearing his entitledness and his spoiledness. He is tired. For Elijah, the prison camps are the final straw. He's done so much things for Tech Knight, but this, no. Elijah lets them know that he will make Tech Knight's death look like an accident. He tells the squad to get out of there. We're back at the hospital with MM and MM is doing okay. He had a panic attack. The doctor says to him, look at this as a warning from the universe that he needs to slow down. Kimiko is back at the jail trying to see Frenchie, but Frenchie, he still doesn't want to have any visitors. Kimiko lets the prison officer know that she doesn't have anywhere else to go. Back at Vought, Firecracker is letting Homelander know that Tech Knight is dead. Now, she is pinning this on Sage. You know that she's got it out for Sage because of everything that happened with Starlight. Homelander clocks that Firecracker is the one that let Starlight get away. So how does he know he can trust her? Firecracker begins to show some skin and even Homelander's like, I'm not attracted to you. Firecracker's like, no, it's not about that. All of a sudden we just see one on Homelander's face. Yes, it is the milk. That is what that medication is for. She has been taking this medication so that she can provide milk to Homelander. This is proving her loyalty to him. Next minute, we see that Homelander, he has taken the bait and he is enjoying his milk. Back at the office, we can see that the events that have happened are really affecting Hughie. Ashley done some horrible and said some terrible things to him. In addition to him having to go through the loss of his dad, he hasn't even really had a chance to really grieve, and Hughie has to admit to himself that he is not okay. Annie is there to comfort him. Now we're with Butcher. He is there with Joe Kessler and Samir is trying to explain to him the severity of the situation. He cannot produce what Butcher is asking for because he says that they realized when they were doing it that it would be unstable to make a virus that strong to kill Homelander. It would virtually kill every soup. This is where Becca comes in to remind Butcher. This includes Kimiko, this includes Annie, this includes Ryan. Joe is doing his best to persuade Butcher and try and get him to see that this is the right way they need to do things. Whilst on the other hand, Becca is trying to show him that there must be a different way, there is a better way. Joe calls Becca out of her name and this is where Butcher pauses and says, you can see her. This is the reveal. This is where Joe lets Butcher know that he is him. Butcher is confused. He's like, what do you mean that you're me? Samir is looking over here like, I am with a madman, because remember, Samir can't see these people. He can only see Butcher, but he can see that Butcher is having a full-blown conversation with himself. Joe reveals that the real Joe Kessler, he's dead. He says that Butcher left him to die, and this is where Butcher is having flashbacks of all these moments where he thought he was speaking to Joe, but really he was alone. Butcher Kessler lets him know that he killed Ezekiel for him. He is inside of him. Even Becca has to look down because Becca knows it's the truth. They are manifestations of his consciousness, his imagination. Becca represents the good side of Butcher, whilst Joe Kessler represents the bad side. Butcher, he is in complete shock. He can't believe what he is hearing, and that is where the episode ends. Wow, we knew that something was going on with Joe Kessler and Butcher. We knew it because does anyone else see Joe? No. Does anyone else speak to Joe? No. How did Joe know so much about the boys? Have we ever seen him around them? No. So it was inevitable. The same way that we know Becca is gone, it was only a matter of time before Butcher realised. Poor Hughie, he is going through it. He has just lost his father. Now he's been in this situation where he nearly lost his life with Tech Knight. Ashley, with her disgusting self, it's too much for Hughie. The poor guy, I really hope he is able to have a chance to heal and to grieve. A-Train doing a real save. He didn't have no crowds or audiences there, but he had that smile from that one boy, and I think that was enough for him to do good. I'm going to give this episode 9 boys out of 10. There was a lot of ups and downs. You didn't know what was going to be happening next, and now we know just how sinister Sage and Homelander's plan really is. We've only got 2 more episodes left, so let's see where things take us. Let me know how many boys out of 10 you would give this episode, and make sure you leave your comments down below. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that notification bell so you are notified when the next review is up. Boy, I will catch you in the next The Boys review. Dunno. Boy.
Pick up your foot and left.